Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. This month's topic is assessing and boosting student motivation in minutes. We are so excited today. Thanks for bearing with us while we had to work through some technical issues to get started. And thank you to everybody who participated in the icebreaker. We saw some really cool ones in there. Candy corn, Snickers, M&Ms, Butterfinger, root beer barrels, Babe Ruth, Almond Joy, ooh, the Reese's Pumpkins, lots of great responses there. So I think we are now ready to go ahead and get started. So before we do that, I just want to make sure everybody knows that we have a bit of housekeeping. First of all, I want to make sure everyone knows the session is being recorded, and we are going to be redirecting you to a survey when you exit or when the session concludes about your experience today. And we do greatly appreciate any feedback that you can provide. And we are going to be sending out the recording within the next couple days. So if you have to leave earlier, if you have anyone else who might be interested in this presentation, don't worry, you'll get the chance to rewatch or share it with them. Now, if you've already participated in the icebreaker, then this is the same part of GoToWebinar. This is going to allow you to both respond to questions and ask them yourself. If your question is more technical in nature, myself or Mark will answer those privately, like if you can't see or hear something. And if the question is for our speaker, we will be taking those at the end, but please feel free to submit questions at any time. We will flag them so that we don't miss anyone. You can also use that box to respond to prompts that our speaker will ask throughout the presentation, and we will be reading some of those aloud. Do not be concerned if you cannot see the responses from other people. That's just the way GoToWebinar works. For the discussion questions, we will read those aloud so everybody has a chance to hear folks' responses. So welcome to the latest webinar in our Engineerica Education Keynote series. We're very pleased to be bringing you this complimentary presentation. For those of you who are new to us, Engineerica specializes in academic center management systems for higher education, and you may be familiar with our software applications, which include AccuTrack, AccuDemia, and AccuCampus. And of course, I want to give a special welcome to any Engineerica clients joining us today. And for those of you who are not yet clients, I do want to let you know we are offering a complimentary trial of our most popular center management system, AccuDemia. This gives you the opportunity to use AccuDemia for an entire semester risk-free to see if it helps make management of your center and data collection easy. So if you are interested, you can email me at rachelc@engineerica.com and I will help you get started with that. I also wanted to let everyone know about our live conference, which is the Academic Center Summit. Our inaugural event was held in October last month. It was a great 2 full days of invigorating professional development presentations for higher education professionals, just like the one you're about to see. We had great keynote speakers, Michael Frizzell and Corey Hammond, along with a ton of great breakout sessions and software training presentations, and some great networking opportunities. We are starting to plan our 2025 event, and whether or not you attended this year or are interested in attending next year, we greatly appreciate your feedback. I'm going to post 2 links in the chat for you to take a look at. The first is a post about this year's event, so you can learn more about it, and the other is a survey to help us plan 2025. So I'm going to go ahead and post, first of all, the page about that and the survey. So if you are able to take that survey, your feedback is very important to us. It will help us make sure that 2025 is a great conference. So we would really appreciate it if you could take a few moments today to fill that out. Just save that form for later. We started this keynote series for our clients and contacts. This is again assessing and boosting student motivation in minutes with Lisette Morales. We started this keynote series for our clients and contacts who wanted to learn more about best practices and trends in higher education. Each month we feature a distinguished speaker to talk about hot topics in the academic support field. We are still finalizing details for our next webinar, so keep an eye on your emails and on our social media accounts for an announcement for when we open up registration. A quick introduction to myself. I'm Rachel Cook. I'm a client success manager with Engineerica. I was previously a learning center manager for 6 years, so like you all, I am very passionate about higher education and student success. I also have with me Mark Kehoe, one of our technical support specialists, who's here as my backup and also to help with any technical issues that come up on our end, the speaker's end, or yours. And now I am pleased to introduce you to this month's speaker. Lisette Morales is an ACTP certified An ICF trained coach specializing in ADHD coaching with over 3,000 hours of coaching and 9 years of experience advising and supporting college students. At Rutgers University Learning Centers, Coach Lizette is part of a high-performing coaching team that has received 2 prestigious honors in 2024, the ACTP Coaching Program of Excellence Award and the ICLC Innovative Use of Technology Award. Before joining Rutgers Learning Center in 2022, she worked for 7 years as a Learning Center specialist with Rutgers Athletics. Lizette, welcome and take it away.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, fabulous. I'm just going to move this over. Oops. Okay. All right, there you go. All right, so thank you everyone for coming today. I just want to start by saying that I'll be the first to admit that some days it's hard to find motivation. And then there are other days when motivation finds us. But here's the thing, we can't rely on bears to motivate us. We need strategies, and strategies that make it easy to tap into something deeper, the kind of motivation that doesn't just push us to outrun the bear, but keeps us moving forward over the long haul. Today, I'm excited to share some practical strategies that can elevate your impact in quick conversations. By the end of our time together today, you'll know how to unlock the motivation already inside your students. And you'll also gain tools to spark meaningful change, even in just a few minutes. And there will be a handout at the end as well. As Edward Deci, a pioneer in the study of human motivation, puts it, motivation is the energy for action. If we can tap into that energy, we don't just help students jumpstart their journeys, we help them stick with it and succeed. So let's dive in and explore how we can help them harness that energy. And I will refer to students, but I realize there are a lot of managers on this call, and I realize that this is applicable skill set that applies to staff, colleagues, and so just keep that in mind every time I say student, it's still applicable. All right, so let's dive in, and here we go. We're going to start with a quick poll. So Rachel, please launch the poll that says, how important is motivation to success?
All right, we're seeing 41% voted, 50% at only 10 seconds. All right, I think we're good. We're at 84% and it seems to be plateauing. So let's go ahead and close that. And I will share the results. All right, so this is really interesting. So we're seeing 68% say very important, 30% important, only 3% moderately important, and nobody picked 1 or 2. And we have a lot of people in here today.
All right, sounds good. I can't see the poll, but thank you, Rachel, for running that down for us. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So this isn't just our own perception, right? And there are a lot of us here. There's research to support it, and so I want us to take a look at. There were 2 large-scale surveys, for example, one from the ACT and another from the Policy Center on the first year of college, and they asked college and university educators to rank the biggest barriers to student success. In both surveys, a lack of motivation was identified as the #1 barrier to success. So we know that motivation is important, but just how important is it? Okay, so when we look at some data, we can see that in the fall of 2022, 22% of first-year students in the 4-year colleges didn't return for a second year. For 2-year colleges, that number jumps to a staggering 45%. That's nearly half. While there's room for improvement, there's also cause for celebration. These are the best retention rates we have seen in higher ed in 10 years. These numbers show both the progress we've made and the challenges that remain in keeping students engaged. So when it comes to motivating them to stay on course, I'd like to ask everyone on the call today, what methods work for you? At this point, I'm going to ask Rachel to please launch the poll that asks, how do you motivate others? And you're free to check all that apply. And I just listed some of the most common methods. And
Okay.
so thank you for that, Rachel.
All right, so we have the poll open now. Let's see, so right now we have 80% voted, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this poll. Bear with us here and share the results. So Lizette, I'm sorry you're not able to see the responses, but it looks like we got pretty good results here. So 76% said they motivate others by inspiration, sharing examples that push them to dig deeper. 52%, and again, people could pick multiple responses, so that's why it's going to add up to more than 100. 52% pick tough love, give a reality check to keep them going. Let's see, what's the percentage here? 96%, wow, said encouragement, acknowledge struggles, but urge them forward. And 58% said humor. So pretty evenly distributed, pretty high numbers for all four of these.
That's great. And I actually can see it, but it's so teeny tiny that I just went ahead and let you read it to me. So,
no
problem. So I'm excited. You brave souls. The humor is one of my favorites. Yeah, I was expecting it to come in last place, but I'm glad that we all have a sense of humor on the call today. All right, so let's take a closer look at these common methods of motivating. Each of these strategies can be powerful, but they can also backfire. So I want you to think of them as double-edged swords. When we try to inspire students with success stories or powerful examples, it really can light a fire in them. But sometimes, instead of feeling motivated, they feel they can't measure up. They might think that's great for that other person, but that'll never work for me. Then there's the tough love, right? We might say something like, you've got to put in the work, which is true, and we're hoping to instill a sense of discipline. But tough love can sometimes lead to defensiveness or to resentment, especially if the student feels misunderstood or unfairly judged. So tough love can motivate some, but it can alienate others. Now we come to encouragement, everyone's personal favorite. And so encouragement is usually a safe bet until it's not. When we give a lot of encouragement, some students will thrive, but others might start relying on our approval instead of finding motivation within inside themselves. They may end up chasing validation rather than pursuing goals for their own sake. And last but not least is humor. It's great for lightening the mood and breaking the ice, but if we're not careful, our humor can come off as dismissive. Students might think that we're not taking their struggles seriously, and then at that point, what we thought was an icebreaker becomes a barrier of sorts. While motivation from the outside can be helpful, it's important to recognize that it can also backfire. The things we say to motivate others don't always get the response we hope for. Now, each of these methods may have a well-deserved place in our arsenal of strategies. But keep in mind that with each of these approaches, there's always some risk of doing harm. Now that we've seen the pitfalls of some of the most commonly used methods of motivating others, let's just consider a different approach. What if we could quickly assess their level of motivation and get them to tell us what they need to get them fired up? This leads us to motivational interviewing, an approach designed to tap into students' own reasons for change. So what is it and how does it differ from what we're doing now? But before we dive into how it works, let's take a quick pulse check on where we are as a group. I want to get a sense of how familiar everyone is with motivational interviewing. So I'm going to need Rachel to please launch the poll that asks, how familiar are you with motivational interviewing?
And while that's going, we have a comment from Sandra McGuire, who's in here. Hi, Sandra, good to see you. She says, I have found that when we show students specifically how the successful students did it, they are motivated to use the strategies that they had never thought of using.
Yes, absolutely. I think the credibility of seeing what has worked for other students is very powerful. And I think it's so important to share with students, well, this has worked for other students, maybe you'd like to try, right? But showing them that, and it's tremendous, it's very powerful. When I use videos in webinars with students or with workshops with students, I try to show students talking about the strategies they use as opposed to me just telling them to use a strategy, right? because it's showing them, letting students show each other what's working for them is a powerful motivator for sure. Thank you for that, Sandra. I truly appreciate it.
Awesome. So we have 80%, and I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, and let's share the results.
All right, so let's see. All right, so wow, pretty even. Let's see.
Lowest is, I have a solid background. 34% are saying I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it. And then roughly 30% each say I know the basics and I'm completely green. So yeah, interesting.
Okay, great. So I mean, motivational interviewing is not easy to learn, and there's a lot to it. But today we're going to take a look at one particular strategy that is easy to learn and implement, so that you can actually put it into practice immediately. So that's what excites me about today. So I'm glad you don't need to be an expert to be on the call. So this is good. But those of you that are well experienced, I'll be grateful for you to chime in as well. All right, let's see. Oops, here we go. Okay, so let's talk about motivational interviewing and how it actually takes a coaching approach. So imagine if instead of lighting fires under our students, we help them to kindle their own. MI does just that. It lets us guide them while they decide. Rather than telling them what they need to do, MI draws out their internal motivation to do better, to make positive changes. This requires a mindset shift on our parts, moving away from trying to fix the person or their problems, and instead focusing on guiding them to explore their own reasons for change. At its core, MI operates on the belief that the answer lies within the individual. Our role isn't to provide answers, it's to help them to notice what's inside. This is where the concept of change talk comes in. Change talk is the student's own language about why and how they want to change. So this is what change talk sounds like. As we guide them through the process of change, it's crucial to listen for this change talk. Change talk typically falls into three key areas. So first, we have the willingness to change. This is where they ask themselves, is it worth doing? Listen as they talk about their values and what's in their hearts. This helps them reflect on the deeper reasons behind their goal. Next, we have the ability to change. This is where they reflect on their ability to achieve their goal. Listen as they talk about their challenges, their efforts, the strategies, the things they've tried, what's working, what's not. It's about understanding what's holding them back and what they believe will help them move forward. Finally, the readiness to act. This is where they begin to consider specific steps and timelines for action. It's about letting them take ownership of the process and helping them clarify their path forward. As readiness grows, so does their motivation. In the world of motivational interviewing, we follow the OARS framework. Within this framework, the O, the R, and the S provide the structure for coaching conversations, while affirming embodies the spirit of MI. So today we're going to focus just on the O for open questions. But first, I ask that you take a moment to reflect on where you currently stand when it comes to asking open questions, and select the answer that best fits your confidence level. So this is about basically a skill set, right? Rachel, will you please launch the poll that asks, how confident are you asking open questions?
Okay, great. And while we're doing that, while that's being taken, I have another comment that I saw another comment that I think is great from Angela, who says, being upfront that the work is challenging and can cause frustration, but I tell students that we often learn by getting it wrong first.
Absolutely.
Which
That's
I think,
yeah,
resonates with me a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Absolutely. There's a lot of sweat equity that goes into learning. And so yes, thank you for that for sure.
All right. All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. I'm seeing 66% voted. Let's see if we can get it up to 80. All right, let's go ahead and close that out. And let's look at the results. So we have 68%. Wow. I feel skilled at asking open questions and do it naturally. 12%, I struggle to ask open questions effectively. 15%, I understand the concept, but often ask closed questions. And 5% is I'm not sure what counts as an open question.
Okay, great. This is fantastic. So there are people who have a really solid foundation, lots of experience doing this quite naturally. And for everyone, we're just going to make it really transparent, step by step, and show what's behind the curtain, so to speak, of this skill of asking open questions. So thank you for that. It's great to see where we landed as a group. Really interesting. All right. So at this point, I'm just for my own sake doing a time check. We're halfway through. So I'm going to switch gears and dive into the actual MI techniques that you can use today. Okay. So whether you're short on time or you're looking to have a powerful impact in a single session, these motivational interviewing techniques can help you get to the heart of the matter efficiently. Some of us don't have the luxury of knowing that we're going to meet with someone regularly. So every conversation, we want it to count. One of the most important and powerful aspects of motivational interviewing is the shift in how we approach motivation. Instead of asking whether a student is motivated, we focus on a much more meaningful question. What motivates you? Rather than focusing on whether motivation exists, we help students discover what motivates them. MI helps us unlock these internal drivers and turn them into the energy needed for action. Now, we're going to take a look at motivational interviewing in action. I have a very short video, less than 3 minutes. And in this short video, we're going to watch how the coach quickly assesses Jade's motivation and helps boost it using open-ended questions.
Okay, can you, while I'm getting that set up, we've had a request for for you to define open questions, since we had a few people in the poll not know what that is. So can you just quickly, briefly define that?
Absolutely. So an open question is a question that does not result in a yes or no answer, right? And so it leads to change talk because you have to sort of think about it, process it, and provide answers. So it's it evokes a thoughtful response. And you're not leading them in any one direction or the other. And I think I'd be curious to see by the end if you have more clarity on what an open question is, right? As you see some of them. But thank you for that. And note to self, I probably should have mentioned that before, but thank you. And I just want you, as you watch the video, to notice how the techniques guide Jade to explore her goals.
Hi, Jade. It's good to see you. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. I'm doing well. I'm just got so much going on all the time, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know how busy you are. So I was wondering, how do you actually feel about making the change to your study habits, the one we talked about last time?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, but at the same time, I'm still quite not sure. It sounds good, but it's a small change, it feels like. And will it really make a difference? I'm just so stressed. I don't know.
Okay. Sounds like you've got a lot going on. So let me ask you something. If we were to give it a number on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you really want to make this change in your study habits? 1 being, not at all, not interested, and 10 being, yeah, I definitely want to do this. Where would you land on that scale?
Mm, I'd say I'm right in the middle. It's not a no, but it's definitely not something I'm ready to just jump into right now. I'm at about a 5.
Okay, so right in the middle at a 5. So then let me ask you then, why not a 1 or a 2? You gave it a 5. Why not a 1 or 2?
Well, I'm not at the point where I feel like I'm in danger and I'm struggling that much, but at the same time, I do want to keep everything, balanced. So I definitely need to take a look at this and be open to it because I would love to improve my grades, but I guess why not give it a try? I just feel like I'm a little overwhelmed to try something new right now, so I want to take my time.
All right, so you're at a 5 and you're a little bit overwhelmed right now. So let me ask you, best case scenario, what would it take to get from the 5 to a 7 or an 8, let's just say?
Mm, I haven't really even thought about those particular steps and details. You know what, Lisa? I'll tell you what. Give me about a week to finish up this big project because I'm clearly distracted. And then we can try to work on this new strategy and techniques for the next few sessions, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. And we'll see where you land on that scale next time as well. Hopefully we can move the needle on that, but we'll check in next time as well. All right. Thank you so much, Jade. I'll see you next time.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Bye.
That's great. And we will have a breakdown in the key moments in the video. We're going to break it down and look at it piece by piece. So, and they will get the video, those of you, for whatever reason, if you didn't have the bandwidth you needed for this video at this time, you'll get to see it later, I'm sure. So thank you so much. Rachel, are we good? The display still looks as it should right now?
Yep, it looks great.
All right, fabulous. Okay, good. Let's see. So, oops. Oh no. All right, here we go. Sorry, I actually had the video in that slide. Sorry. All right, so here we go. So I want you to take a moment to reflect on what we just saw. First, I want to ask you, what did you notice about how Jade's motivation shifted throughout the conversation? So Rachel, you're going to go ahead and read off some comments to that question.
All right, we have, when you asked her why not a 1 or a 2, she started to think and consider her strategies. Once you had her think more about her answers, and then again, when she realized she wasn't a 1 or a 2, her motivation increased when asked why her number wasn't lower, when she had to think about commitment. Some really good, thoughtful responses here.
Okay, great. And I think you're already leading into the next question. All right, which was what strategy stood out to you? And so you pointed out the scaling questions and
Yeah.
the 1 or the 2 versus, looking up the scale. So great.
Yeah,
Right.
so if folks want to put in other strategies that stood out to them in the questions box, we'll give you a few seconds for that and read some out loud.
Mm-hmm.
I might be concerned that the delay in getting started and change is possible procrastination due to low motivation. I think she meant to say, I really like the strategy of using a scale to engage their thoughts, allowing her the space to think about it after she finished her project and meet later.
Mm-hmm.
Dawn, it's okay if you're not seeing the responses. That's just how GoToWebinar works. That's why I'm reading them out loud. She prioritized her current project that is due in a week and asked to revisit the new strategies for later.
Mm-hmm.
Probing questions that make you think more, making her think about her responses further. I like the 1 to 10 scale question. So some really great responses there.
All right, so far so good. So now we're going to break it down step by step. Here we go. All right, so this is our replay of the tape. We're going to analyze some key moments and strategies. In this example, the coach starts with a simple open question, inviting Jade to explore her feelings about change. This is an important part of the process. The student responds with uncertainty, which is completely normal. She's unsure about whether the small change will lead to meaningful results. This moment is valuable because it opens the door to explore deeper concerns and beliefs the student might have about the impact of change. And it also shows that motivational conversations are not about convincing someone. They are about helping them reflect and assess for themselves. Next, we use a ruler on a scale from 1 to 10 to assess Jade's motivation to change. The coach starts the assessment by asking, how important is this change to you? This helps open up the conversation and get a sense of Jade's level of commitment. Jade gives herself a score of 5, indicating a neutral stance, not very motivated, but not completely opposed either. This number is a starting point. It gives the coach and the student valuable insight into where she stands on the motivation scale. And what I truly value about this is that if we were to listen to the student and try to interpret for them where they land on this scale, we might say, I think she's a 3 out of 10. And so we would be wrong. Better to have the student actually tell us in their own words, I'm a 5 out of 10, and here's why. That way we are starting from the same point. We are on the same page. Now, let's dive a little deeper. After Jade gives her initial rating, it's important to look back down the scale to understand why she's motivated to make the change at all. The coach asks another key question. This isn't just about the number on the scale, but about what's behind it. This question helps Jade reflect on what's driving her to make the change, even if it feels a bit overwhelming. And notice what Jade says. She opens up with change talk, acknowledging that she needs to improve her grades, and this shows that there is some motivation. This change talk is crucial because it signals a readiness to explore the change further. By tapping into these motivations, the coach can now work with Jade to strengthen her commitment and address any concerns or obstacles like feeling overwhelmed. Now, let's see how we can move that conversation forward by looking up the scale. After the student shares her current motivation level, the coach asks, what would help increase that number? This question is designed to get Jade thinking about what it would take to increase her motivation. By asking what would move her closer to a higher number, the coach is helping Jade start to visualize success and identify actionable steps. And notice what happens next. Jade offers a solution, a timeline and a plan, showing she is willing to commit to trying new study techniques after her big project is done. This is a form of change talk, where the student expresses motivation and takes responsibility for the next steps. We see a plan is emerging, and this is key. The plan can be used to keep Jade engaged and accountable, making it more likely that she will actually follow through. In one short conversation, we can see Jade move through several stages of change. First, we hear the willingness to change. At this stage, she recognizes the need for change, but she hasn't fully committed to any action just yet. Next is the ability to change. Jade expresses some hesitation, saying it's overwhelming to try something new right now. Finally, readiness to act. Here we see that she's preparing herself to take action once she clears a current hurdle. As her readiness increases, we can expect her motivation to follow. The key here is meeting her where she is, addressing her concerns, and supporting her as she builds confidence to act. And this is where we shine in our profession, supporting, connecting students to resources, and helping them build up that confidence for that readiness to act. So in the video, we saw how to quickly assess and elevate motivation using a simple, effective strategy. First, we ask about the motivation to change. Next, we assess motivation using a ruler to anchor the assessment on a scale from 1 to 10. And then finally, we apply motivational interviewing techniques. There are two doors. The first one is looking back. To assess where Jade is at, we look back down the scale by asking, why did you choose that number and not a lower one? This highlights her current motivation. It's a snapshot in real time of where she's at right now. There's this other door we can also go through where we look forward. So to lift motivation, we look forward by asking, what would it take to move just 1 or 2 points higher? This encourages Jade to identify steps that could boost her motivation. This quick method provides both insight and an opportunity to raise motivation in just a few minutes. So at this point, I'm going to ask Rachel to walk us through. We're going to take 5 polls, and it's going to be asking you to review these skills: the ask, the assess, the look back, and the look forward. They're going to be multiple choice, and the first one is going to be ask. So here we go. So Rachel, can you please launch the poll that asks?
It looks like I don't have that one in here. Sorry, it must have been a miscommunication.
Okay.
Can we have folks put those in the questions box?
Okay, so let's see. Why does the coach start the conversation with Jade by asking an open question?
Okay, yeah, so we didn't put that in a poll because it's an open-ended. So yeah, if folks want to start with that, why does the coach start with that? And put that in the questions box. I'm seeing to get the student thinking, to get Jade to start thinking about her own motivation. I'm seeing a lot of responses here to get the student to open up about communication, to allow the students the opportunity to share about themselves, to engage the conversation, to listen to the response. Some really great responses here. So I think we can move on to the next one.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to look at the strategy of assessing. Jade rates her motivation as a 5 on the scale. What does this rating help the coach understand?
All right, we have where she is currently at with her motivation level, how Jade feels about herself and her motivation, that she has not given up, that she's neither committed nor uncommitted to change, helps the coach decide how she will move forward with support. She's feeling okay about her motivation level, but knows she has room for improvement.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you so much. We're going to do another one, another assess one. All right, so here's that strategy again. Why does the coach use a ruler, a scale of 1 to 10, in the conversation with Jade?
We have a same measurement for both of them. A scale makes it more concrete for the student to help Jade visualize her motivation, to have a better understanding of where she's at, a more precise indication of what she thinks.
Absolutely. So yes, I hear the words precise, specific, concrete, visual. Very important, very motivating, right? We know when we can visualize the progress we're making or where we're at now and where we want to be, it helps. And so it tells you what the baseline is what I like to say. It helps us to establish a baseline, this scale on a 1 to 10. And from there, we can see us moving the needle from a 5 to a 6 to a 7. And so that is great. Let's see. All right, the next one. Now we're going to move on to the look back strategy. Okay, so here's the question for looking back. After Jade gives her initial motivation rating, what is the coach's next step?
Okay, for next steps, we have ask why she didn't answer 1 or 2, or why she chose that rating, to ask why she feels the way she does, why not lower, and ask, yeah, we're getting a lot of versions of to ask why she picked that and not 1 or 2 or higher.
Absolutely. So this basically is a great way to get the student to dig deeper. And yes, to sort of get that snapshot in real time. Absolutely. All right, it does help her explore her feelings for sure. All right, let's now move on to the other door. Using MI, you can use this strategy to look forward. What question does the coach ask to help Jade think about increasing her motivation level?
What would it take to get you to a 7 or 8 or higher? What would help raise your score higher than a 5? There's lots of versions of that. Oh, here's one: meet Jade where she's at and find out what is going to make her more motivated. What would you like to get? What is holding you back? But a lot of different variations of like what would it take to increase that score.
Absolutely. Great. Fantastic. And you know, there are different variations of this, but the most clear one when we say looking forward is to literally look up the scale. But I sometimes ask students, you know, if they're at a 5, I might ask them, well, what keeps it from being a 7? And so there are many ways to ask that same question. And so thank you for that. Let's see. Okay. The approach we've discussed today isn't just a tool, it's a mindset shift. And if you're short on time, MI techniques can help you get to the matter efficiently. Once we go from fixing to guiding, we are now able to harness their hearts and build up their resolve to take action by using these techniques. The best part about this strategy is that it is powerful yet fail-safe. Even if your delivery isn't perfect, there's no risk of doing harm. As we navigate the complexities of motivation, let's prioritize our students' well-being and strive to cultivate environments that support their growth without causing unintended harm. So I just would say this is one more tool in your toolkit, and we can keep all the other ones in our toolkit as well, but this one is absolutely simple and fail-safe. And for anyone wondering, you can rest assured that no bears and no bicyclists were harmed in the making of this keynote. And with that, I officially deputize you all as champions of MI. Go forth and do no harm.
Awesome.
At this point, you've learned about the power of motivational interviewing and how it can transform your conversations with students. Let's focus on what's next for you. How confident are you in applying today's skills? So let's just say this is supposed to be one of those, 5 very confident and 1 not confident. Okay, it's already on the slide, so good. So go ahead and write into the questions box. Unless Rachel,
we do have this as a poll, so let me launch that.
So we're going to launch this poll. So this is the one that made it great. Oh, fabulous. That'll be great.
All right, and I'm seeing a lot of 5s in the comments before we were able to launch that. Sorry about the confusion, guys. There were some questions that we were able to enter as polls and some we weren't. So
good.
Yeah, we're seeing about 50% voted. Glenda says, I might need some STEM questions. Oh, STEM, like, not like science tech.
Yeah, the handout is going to come in handy for that.
Good, and yeah, we are going to be sending that handout with the recording as well. When I hear STEM, that's what I think, Glenda. All right. All right, let me go ahead and launch the results here. Yeah, we're seeing very and moderately confident taking the lead by a wide margin, and nobody says not at all confident, which is beautiful.
Excellent. And again, you know, even if your execution is not perfect, you can do no harm. Basically, you will know how you're doing. The feedback is immediate. You will see them either talking freely or they will pause to think and say, I never really thought about that. And either way, you know that it's working. If for whatever reason they push back, then that's your cue to just, you overshot the mark and you can reconnect and try again. But no harm, no foul. All right, so we are going to have you scan the QR code to download the guide. That will have those open-ended question prompts that you can use as a guide. And it has questions for each category, for the ask, for the assess, for
Yes.
the looking back, and for looking forward. Each one of those strategies are in the handout. And so that'll include practical tips and conversation starters to help you elevate motivation effectively.
And like I said, we will be including a copy of this with the recording. We'll be linking to that. So if for some reason you're not able to access it here, you should be able to download it later when we send out that recording. We'll include a link.
Okay. Is that okay to move on, Rachel? We're good?
Yep. And then yep, when we send it out via email, we'll send the link. So so yeah, Lizette, you can go ahead and move on.
All right. Oh, oops. All right. Here we go. All right. So as we wrap up, I want to challenge you to try just one of these techniques in your next conversation. You can look down the scale or you can look up the scale. You don't have to do both, but go ahead and dive in and try one of these techniques in your next conversation with a student or a colleague. And you can basically, oh, I was going to say scan the QR code, but we already did that. All right, so that's basically it today. I challenge you to use this strategy to make every conversation count. And this QR code is just for if you want to connect with me. And I will turn it over to Rachel to moderate Q&A. And we made good time. We did it. We got to 2 o'clock. I value everyone's time. I didn't want anyone who only had an hour to feel like they missed out. So thank you so much. Rachel, take it away.
Yeah, if anybody does have any questions, you can put that in the questions box. We did schedule this for 90 minutes, but we know that just from history, people tend to have to go within that first hour. So we're grateful that we were able to get all that great content in. So I do see a question in here from Brenda Lee asks, how do you respond to a student with ADHD who says that he cannot motivate himself if a particular assignment is not interesting to him?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big issue for students that they have the ability to hyper-focus, but at the same time, they're very challenged if it's not of interest to them. So I've been focusing on how can you make it more fun? How can you make it more social? Or how can you make it more challenging? Right, so just this idea of reimagining the task. And so for some people, it's, about saying, well, the last time I was able to do it in 5 minutes, let me see if I can beat my best time. Turning it into sort of a game. There's also body doubling that can make it more social. And body doubling is when we have, well, in ADHD coaching, we know that for a lot of students with ADHD, it helps for them to just have someone in the room with them. And it just makes them more productive. And so body doubling is something that can help them. And you can think of it as a way of making it more social as well. But, the lack of interest in the content itself will happen to, all of us at some point or another. Regardless, we reach a point where we have to study something or do something that is not as interesting as we would like. But for students with ADHD, it usually comes down to how can I make it more social? How can I make it more fun? Or how can I make it more challenging to really just get them to the, just do it. But yes, and I also do talk to them about the fact that, for students with ADHD, it's really about a 3-legged stool, right? And so it's part of it is the coaching and the tools in our toolkit. And part of it is also just being able to connect with the professors and help the professors help them get fired up as well in terms of like maybe explaining to them why is this as interesting as, the professors are very passionate about the topics. Many times they're dedicated their careers to these topics, researching them, teaching them. And so letting the students go ahead and have those conversations with the professors also and let the professors share their own enthusiasm and excitement for the content can also help bring it alive. I hope that answers your question. It's a really great question, and I think that's a whole entire webinar in and of itself. I really do love the question, but yeah.
All right, and I'm not seeing any other questions yet. Let's just give it a few seconds just in case. I'm seeing a lot of responses that people enjoyed it, so that's great. And again, we are going to be redirecting you to a survey about your experience today. And I do have a couple of links for you if you are interested in also filling out a quick survey about our 2025 Academic Center Summit. That would really help us out too, if you could take a few minutes to pull that out, to fill that out. And if you are interested in if you're interested in a free semester trial of academia, you can email me, rachelc@engineerica.com. I'm putting that in the chat as well. Okay, and we have another question. Have you had students struggle with answering the 1 to 10 question? If so, what's a good way to approach that?
So yeah, I mean, there are students who will say, I haven't thought about that, and they may be very silent. But that doesn't mean that it's not working. They may not be as verbal or expressive, but it does seem to help people think, and that's ultimately what we want, even if they're not necessarily articulating, so that we can hear them think out loud. And so, and I do find that for students who are not as able to articulate, they actually, there's a certain amount of relief that they get from being able to give a number, right? Because sometimes, in some cases, it's easier for them to give it a number than it is for them to explain everything that goes with that. So it looks a little different for different people, depending on the issue that, you know, I do work with students, for example, that have learning disabilities. And so for them, the identifying the number is easier than, in some cases, than articulating the digging deep, answering those open-ended questions. So absolutely, it can work differently. It can look a little different from one student to the next. But you know, all we can do is try and see. But there's value either way. There's value in getting the student to get very specific about where they are on that scale, even if they can't necessarily unpack for you or with you all their reasons out loud. There's still tremendous value in having them locate themselves on that scale and think that through. So, but yeah. I don't hear anything. I don't know if I'm.
I was just checking to see if we got any more questions, and we haven't, not yet. But I think we covered a lot of really great ground today. So we'll just give it another second. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And Lizette, thank you so much for the generosity of your time and information. That was really lovely. All right. I think if anybody does have any questions, you can send them to me, rachelc@engineerica.com, or you can contact Lizette directly. You know, we'll do our best to answer, to get that answered for you. And again, thank you everybody for your time today. Thanks for another really great webinar. Carmen's asking if we'll schedule this presentation in the near future again. So we are recording today's presentation. We'll make that available. We don't personally tend to, we don't personally schedule presentations more than once, but Lizette, I don't know if you have plans to do this presentation or a version of it again at another conference or anything.
I'm sure that I will. I'm thankful for this opportunity to do it. This is the first time I'm doing it, but I definitely look forward to doing it at conferences. So if you will connect with me and let me know, I'll keep you posted. I hope to be doing this at conferences here in the Northeast and hopefully in Florida as well at some point. But definitely, you'll see this again at some point, and you will have the video. So.
Yep, and Kate's asking if the recording is going to be sent to the email. It will be sent to your email if you're subscribed to us. We will also post it on our YouTube channel and on our website. You will be able to download it completely free, ungated, and the slides and the handout from today. All right. I think we are going to go ahead and close out. I'm not seeing any additional questions, and I know everyone has already been in here for a while. Thank you so much for those of you who are able to stick with us, and thank you again, Lizette, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.